Welcome to the Retirement Made Easy podcast, a show created to be your go-to source for straightforward retirement advice. Best of all, it is presented in a language that you can understand. Here's your host, certified financial planner, Greg Gonzalez.
Hey, welcome to the Retirement Made Easy podcast. I'm Greg Gonzalez. Thanks for joining me today. This is episode number 199. We're going to talk about some updates to Social Security that were just announced, and that'll be a lot of fun going through these updates to Social Security. And then the second half of the podcast, we're going to go through some hand-picked listener questions that were long overdue for listener questions and doing a segment. So I've got a lot lined up, a lot of very, very good questions. So thank you to everybody out there that has submitted your questions at our website, retirestrongfa.com. And if you're a new listener to the podcast, again, retirestrongfa.com. There's a link in the show notes. That is our website where you can listen to all previous 198 episodes. You can download our free retirement resources underneath the resource tab, like our tax planning guide. We have a Social Security guide. We also have our retirement secret sauce, all on the website where you can download it underneath the resources tab. And for those listeners that want to get serious with their retirement planning, and hopefully you're looking for a fiduciary financial planner, on our website, there's a form you can fill out, and that can get the conversation started to see if we might be a good fit to work together long term. And if you've got questions, you can always submit those to our website, retirestrongfa.com. That's the second half of today's episode. We're going to go through as many as we can. Some really, really good questions I think you're going to enjoy and hopefully even learn from. And my last announcement is we do have a YouTube channel, Retirement Made Easy. We've gone through a lot of questions, a lot of case studies as far as retirement plans and different topics that keep coming up over and over again. There is a lot you can learn from on our YouTube channel, Retirement Made Easy. All right, let's jump into today's episode. First of all, we're going to talk about some changes to Social Security. Now, a lot of people think, oh, well, it's the cost of living adjustment. So if you're not familiar, every October, Social Security will announce what the cost of living adjustment will be for the following January. So just now, as I record this episode in late October, it was just announced that come January of 2026, Social Security recipients will receive a 2.8% cost of living adjustment or raise in their Social Security check. Now, last year, it was only 2.5%. So ask yourself, is inflation really going down? Now, in September of 2025, it was announced that the annual inflation rate was around 3%, which was less than anticipated. And the stock market actually shot up that day. That was announced because there was a hope that the Fed would then cut interest rates or decide to cut interest rates in the meetings that are coming up. So getting back to Social Security, you might, and I say might, be getting a 2.8% raise in your Social Security check come January of 2026. Now, why do I use the word might? In November, Medicare will actually announce what the Medicare Part B premium will be for 2026. And Medicare trustees are reporting that they are anticipating this increase to be 11.6%. So the Medicare Part B premium, it's income-based, and it starts at $185 per month. So if you're collecting Social Security and you're on Medicare, your Medicare Part B premium, which again is income-based, but at the lowest level is $185 a month, that comes directly out of your Social Security check. So if your Social Security check is going to go up, for the average person, Social Security tells us it's going to be about $56 a month. But if your Medicare Part B premium is anticipated to go up $21.50, well, guess what? Your Social Security check didn't actually go up $56 a month. It went up about $34.50 per month. Now, if I was in charge of Social Security and Medicare, I would tell them, okay, listen, we're going to announce the cost of living adjustment for Social Security. Instead of announcing that in October every year, we're going to announce that in November. And for Medicare, we're going to announce the Medicare Part B premium at the same exact time. So then people would be able to say, okay, the cost of living on my Social Security check went up X amount of dollars per month. But then my Medicare premium is going up by X amount of dollars per month. In this case, it's anticipated to go up $21.50 per month. And therefore, I know my net difference, how much my Social Security check will indeed actually go up. Announcing your Social Security cost of living a month earlier than when they announce the Medicare Part B premium, it's misleading at best. It's like announcing the good news first and then holding off on the bad news and waiting a month to announce the bad news. So my takeaway here is, and my recommendation is, don't get too encouraged with this 2.8% cost of living adjustment announcement, because once you factor in the increase to Medicare Part B premiums, and also when you factor in maybe the increase to the annual Medicare deductible, that cost of living adjustment may not go very far. And so we've got to remember that yes, Medicare Part B premiums, they come out of your Social Security check once you have started collecting your Social Security benefit. And some people say, well, the average cost of living adjustment for Social Security the last 10 years is 3%. But when you factor in the increases to Medicare Part B premiums, it's less than half of that. And the reason is if you take a look at the last 20 years and how much Medicare Part B premiums have gone up, the last 20 years, it's averaged over 5% per year. And if you want to fact check me, of course, you can go to ssa.gov and verify for yourself. Now, there's one other change that I wanted to mention, and I think it's worthwhile to talk about, especially for those people that are still working. But on the Social Security earnings limit, so this is the amount of money that you make that you pay into Social Security on. So for 2025, that amount was $176,100. So I've had a lot of clients say, oh, well, they see a raise in their paycheck, and these are high income earning people. They see a raise in their paycheck maybe in the fall. And I said, oh, well, that's probably because you hit the Social Security earnings limit and you're no longer paying into Social Security for every dollar you make above $176,100 for 2025. So come 2026, that earnings limit is going up to $184,500. That's a 4.77% increase. So come 2026, you're going to pay into Social Security on a bigger amount, $184,500. Now, not to get political here, but those folks that are in Congress, this has been one of the arguments that's been made was these people are proposing increasing or getting rid of that earnings limit so that you pay into Social Security on every single dollar you earn. But I'm just pointing out that limit is going up to almost $185,000 next year. Now, here's some good news as we get into some listener questions here. The stock market has done exceptionally well again this year so far in 2025, knock on wood, because we've not made it to the end of the year yet, but just looking at the major stock market indices, and as I record, this is the end of October, but like the S&P 500 that everybody talks about is up, as I record this, about 14.5%. The NASDAQ is up about 18%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 10%. Russell 2000 up 11%. Those are the smaller companies. So all in the teens, the double digits. And then you look at the international markets, they're up 25%. So overall, markets hitting all-time highs. Interest rates are starting to come down. Inflation seems to be somewhat evening out. And at our firm anyway, Retire Strong Financial Advisors, we are continuing to see more and more people get a second opinion and say, hey, how close am I to retirement now? My 401k or 403b is at the highest it's ever been. How close am I to being able to retire? And how much can I live on in retirement? That's what I want to know. It seems like I'm closer to retirement than I've ever been. I really, really want a second opinion on this. So we've been extremely busy. A lot of people have been going to our website, retirestrongfa.com, to get that second opinion. And I would highly, highly encourage you to get a retirement plan built. The time to prepare the roof is when the sun is shining. That's a quote from JFK. And it is so, so true, especially in those 1 to 3 years leading up to retirement. You want to make sure you've got a game plan so you can have a smooth, comfortable landing into retirement. And with that, we've had a lot of people asking questions about retirement. And we've got a lot of new listeners lately. It seems like every week getting more and more questions and people sending in emails and submissions to our website. So thank you again. So let's jump into some listener questions. The first question comes from listener. Their initials are JB. And JB said, can you talk to me about Roth conversions, where they're going to be most suitable, and maybe some pitfalls and things that people don't think about when it comes to Roth conversions? Can you explain it as if I'm a novice? Thanks, JB. I did a YouTube video actually on this, so I would highly, highly encourage everyone to check out Retirement Made Easy YouTube channel. And I even had somebody that emailed me and said, hey, you can't assume that we all know what a Roth conversion is. Can you just explain that? And so let's kind of take a step back and say, okay, what is a Roth conversion? Where is it useful? And I think this is a great opportunity. So what a Roth conversion is, so you've got all these, you might have all these pre-tax dollars inside of your 401k or 403b or traditional IRA. When you contribute money to that, you don't pay taxes. You get a tax deduction. So let's just keep it simple. Let's say you make $100,000. You contribute 5% to your pre-tax 401k. So therefore, you're only taxed on $95,000 because you got the tax deduction on every dollar that you contributed to the pre-tax 401k. It's often called a traditional 401k. So what happens is, and maybe you've got match dollars that are going in there, and those again are all pre-tax. So when you get down the road into retirement and you start taking withdrawals out of your retirement accounts, like your 401k, your traditional IRAs, that is all pre-tax money. So as you take those distributions, it's taxed as ordinary income. Now, some people find themselves top-heavy, meaning they might have a vast majority of their net worth is in pre-tax retirement accounts, like a 401k or a traditional IRA. And so they might say to themselves, maybe converting money, so moving money from the pre-tax bucket, which is a traditional IRA, pre-tax 401k, paying the taxes on the amount that you convert, and then the funds end up in your Roth 401k or Roth IRA. Well, what's the benefit of that? Well, once the money's in the Roth account, it grows tax-free. Depending on how you invest it, all of the interest and dividends that it might earn, all are tax-free within that Roth account. So whenever you hear the word Roth, just think, okay, that account is growing tax-free. Now, what some people do is they work with a fiduciary financial planner. Maybe it's a CPA, certified public accountant, or some tax advisor, and they decide on doing regular Roth conversions. It might be $10,000 per year, taking a chunk out of your pre-tax account, paying the taxes, and then it moves to your Roth account. Another one of the benefits of the Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, is there's no required minimum distributions. So the IRS can never force you to take withdrawals out of a Roth IRA or Roth 401k. Whereas there are mandatory required minimum distributions on the pre-tax accounts like 401ks and traditional IRAs. Once you hit a certain age, for some people that's 73, for other people that's 75, depending on your date of birth, you are required to take those mandatory withdrawals and pay the taxes. So if you know that day's coming, and the idea here is we can kind of project and say, okay, what kind of a tax situation is that going to put us in throughout retirement, knowing that, hey, we've got this ticking time bomb, so to speak, where we know we're going to have to take those withdrawals down the road, and that might end up causing us to pay more taxes than we need to. And instead of waiting for that to happen, maybe we start to take bite-sized pieces out of that pre-tax bucket and pay the taxes so it moves to your Roth account. Now, one of the opportunities here is for a lot of people, like we met a couple this past year that was just living on their Social Security benefits, and they were paying zero income taxes. And we identified, okay, you're able to do Roth conversions this year of almost $17,000 and pay zero income taxes. Why would you not do that is the question, especially knowing that down the road, when those required minimum distributions kick in, now you're going to be paying taxes on those withdrawals. Now, there's downfalls with Roth conversions. For example, there is a 5-year rule, which you can look up, and the YouTube video that I did on Roth conversions explains that. Not only who it applies to, but also where the 5-year Roth IRA rule would come into play based on your age and when your Roth was established. And essentially, just to boil it down, you might have to wait 5 years before you can take withdrawals from that Roth IRA. So there is conventional wisdom saying, hey, get that Roth opened as soon as you can, even if it's with a minimal balance, because that would start that 5-year clock. Another disadvantage nobody talks about, I've never heard it talked about, but when you do these Roth conversions, it can cause you to pay more taxes on your Social Security benefit. A lot of people know that the most they'll tax of your Social Security benefit is up to 85% of your Social Security benefit could become taxable. So let's say you're retired, collecting Social Security, maybe living on a pension as well. They were taxing 50%, half of your Social Security benefit was subject to taxation. And you decided to do a Roth conversion, a big Roth conversion, and then now that caused more of your Social Security benefit, Social Security income to be taxable. So now 85% of your Social Security benefit is taxable at that point. So not only did you have to pay taxes on the Roth conversion itself, the dollars that you moved from your traditional IRA to your Roth IRA, but then you had to pay more taxes on your Social Security check because you decided to do the Roth conversion. Additionally, if you do a Roth conversion and maybe you're not looking at the tax brackets, it could end up throwing you into a different tax bracket. It could cause you to pay net investment income tax. That's for people that are married filing jointly with modified adjusted gross incomes of $250,000 or higher, or those filing single, for example, $200,000. It could cause you to pay IRMA taxes or, and basically a higher premium on your Medicare Part B if you were to do a big enough Roth conversion. So my best advice as far as Roth conversions is to work with your financial planner, your tax advisor, to see if it's something that you should be considering, and if so, why or why not. Because I'll tell you right now, Roth conversions are not for everyone. There's some people where it doesn't make sense. For example, those people that have very, very little of their net worth, of their retirement savings in the pre-tax bucket, I just don't see, I would be very, very hard to be convinced where Roth conversions would actually make sense for that person. All right, that was a good question, but it was a long one. So we'll jump into the next one. The next question comes from a listener in regards to their 401k. They said, "Hey, Greg, like the YouTube channel and the podcast, I had a question on my 401k. I am paying a company called Financial Engines, who has an agreement with our 401k provider, a lot of money every year to help manage my 401k. Is this something I can get out of? Thanks for the podcast, Kelly." Yeah, Kelly. So there are companies that are linked up with 401ks, and it is optional. The investment management or portfolio management for 401ks is totally optional. So you can build your own portfolio or build your customized portfolio without paying this extra fee. Now, what I will say is if you have a relationship with somebody from that organization that you mentioned, and they're building a retirement plan for you, and they know your goals, they know your risk tolerance, they know all these things, and they're coming up with a customized plan, that might be something worthwhile. But just to shell out money to pay a company that you've never talked to, yes, you are allowed to opt out of that. You would just need to contact the 800 number that's on your 401k statement. Great question. All right, next question. This is a good one. This comes from Gary. Gary said that he's 60 years old. His wife, Linda, is 52 years old, so they have an 8-year age gap. He wants to retire. She would work part-time, and she would make about $1,000 a month. He said 90% of his retirement savings is in the pre-tax 401k. He's got a pension that starts in 5 years at age 65. He doesn't know when he wants to claim Social Security, and Linda, being only 52, she's got quite a ways before she can collect Social Security. He's got over $2 million saved for retirement, but he knows that he's missing some things. What is he overlooking? Well, Gary, without having a personal conversation with you and your wife, Linda, there's, of course, more things that we could uncover during that conversation. But one thing that sticks out to me is, what if something happens to Gary? He's 60, his wife, Linda, there's a big age gap there. She's only 52. And it sounds like if she's making $1,000 a month as her take-home pay, I would think it would be safe to assume that Gary's the higher earner in this household. He's also got 5 years before his pension kicks in. He's 60. It doesn't kick in until 65. He did not mention if he's going to work part-time in retirement. That's one thing that I would want to know more about. Obviously, he's old enough to begin taking withdrawals from his 401k without that 10% early withdrawal penalty. But one of my concerns here is, again, no pension income for the first 5 years of retirement. The other thing, if something happened to Gary, Linda would not be entitled for a Social Security survivor benefit for 8 years because that doesn't kick in until age 60. She's only 52 at this point. Gary did not mention how much debt they have, whether they have a mortgage that still needs to be paid off, car loans, any other liabilities like that. It sounds like they've been very, very good savers. They have a nice, healthy balance in Gary's 401k. But there again, over 90% of their net worth is in the pre-tax 401k. That's a risk too, because at some point, you're going to have a widow or a widower, and you're going to be filing a single tax bracket. And with all that money is pre-tax, boy, that could really, really cause that surviving spouse to pay a boatload in taxes. And likely, again, we don't have a crystal ball, but with Linda being so young at 52, it's likely going to be her. And then what about that pension? What's the survivorship with that? Can he do 100% joint and survivor, 75% joint and survivor? Meaning if something happened to Gary, it would pay out 75 cents on the dollar to Linda, or maybe a 50-50. So meaning if it paid out $4,000 a month while Gary's living, and then it pays half of that or $2,000 a month after Gary passes away. Gary did not mention whether a lump sum payment option is available with that 401k. He just indicated that it started at age 65. Gary did not mention anything about health insurance. He's only 60 years old. Linda is 52. He did not indicate that her employment offered health insurance for her and potentially Gary as well. So that's another concern I have, is how they're going to afford health insurance between 60 and 65 for Gary, and then from 52 to 65 for Linda. So my biggest recommendation, Gary, is you need a retirement plan, especially with the age gap. You've got some risks that are on the table that need to be addressed. You've also got some tax considerations with having over 90% of your money in the pre-tax 401k. That's a concern. Social Security, we haven't even talked about that. When Gary claims his Social Security benefit, I would venture to guess if he was the higher income earning spouse, his Social Security benefit is a lot greater than Linda's Social Security. Again, that's a guess. I don't know for a fact. But in that case, how do you make the most of their joint benefits, especially with the age gap, that they have an 8-year age gap? We have not talked about life insurance either with the big age gap. Again, Gary's 60, Linda's 52. What about life insurance? This could be one of those situations where life insurance could make a lot of sense. Maybe they already have some life insurance strategy in place. They also didn't mention whether they plan on relocating upon retirement. And that's a huge factor that a lot of people overlook. What a monumental change like a relocation upon retirement can do, not only to, your retirement plan, but also your expenses, how long your money is going to last, all of these different implications to a move, either upon retirement or shortly thereafter. It could be even if you're moving out of state, just the tax implications. For example, some people will move to Florida where they have no state income tax. Well, that's a positive change. But maybe with insurance costs in Florida, they have really spiked. So maybe your cost of living is going to be a lot higher in Florida. I don't know. It kind of depends on what part of Florida you move to, I guess. So Gary, a lot to consider here, my friend. And you and Linda, my hope is when you get a customized retirement plan built and developed, it'll give you the confidence that you're looking for, because there's a lot of question marks when it comes to your retirement plan as I kind of talk through this. All right, the next question comes from a listener that emailed in a specific type of annuity. And they said, "What am I missing? This sounds too good to be true. We enjoyed a great steak dinner, and this annuity sounds like the ticket. Thanks." Okay, so this one's got me fired up, but here's my opinion, and take it for what it's worth. But there are a lot of people out there that they have an agenda, and their agenda might be to sell you something. And there are some very skilled sales systems and salespeople. A lot of those people are involved in timeshares, in the timeshare industry. They get people to sign up on timeshares like crazy. And the same thing is true with these annuity product pitches. And they put on these dinner presentations and they give you their pitch. And this is coming from me. I'm a certified financial fiduciary. These annuity presentations, these annuity products, there's no magic bullet in retirement planning, believe me. And I have had the displeasure of meeting with a lot of people that have gone to these dinner presentations, have put a lot of money into these annuities, only to find out the truth about what they bought. And then there's surrender penalties and things like that to get their money out of them. So again, I will repeat, there is no magic bullet when it comes to investments. There just isn't. Annuity products are offered from insurance companies, and they can be useful. They can have a place in your investment portfolio, but they may not be the best. And they come with so many disadvantages oftentimes. They could be high fees. They could be illiquidity, surrender penalties. The insurance company can change the rules and change the game on you at any point in the future. So you just have to be very careful. You have to be skeptical. And you have to understand, if you're going to a dinner seminar where somebody is buying you a steak, you've got to go in with the impression that they've got an agenda. They're going to try to sell you something. That's why when we do retirement planning seminars, Social Security seminars, we do it at a library. There's no steak and chicken dinner. There's no wine or alcohol or any of that. It is at a library. You're coming, there's no product pitch or anything like that. We simply put them on as a means of financial education. And if somebody likes what we have to say and thinks that we might be a good fit, they can look us up. But there's no product pitch. But it sounds like with this dinner seminar where they're trying to sell annuities, that's the whole thing, was they had an agenda behind it. And there wasn't a whole lot of education, maybe. That's what I'm assuming. And they probably, a lot of times, these annuity salespeople, they don't do any financial planning. So if you needed help with tax planning or Social Security planning, retirement planning, they're there to make a pitch. They're trying to sell an investment product, and they're not acting as a fiduciary. They're there to make a transaction, and they're trying to pose the specific product, in this case, it's an annuity, in your best interest. So you've got to kind of identify the conflict of interest there. So that's all I got on the annuity question. I hope that helps. Okay, and the last listener question, this comes from Cindy. I saved the best question for last. This is very good. Cindy said, I've got different retirement accounts. My problem is I don't know which account to begin withdrawing from first when it comes to retirement income. Do I take it all from my 401k first? What about my Roth account? And then we have a stock account that we really wanted to just leave to our kids one day. But does that make sense? Should we be spending out of the stock account first? Or maybe we should be taking money out of each account, like a fixed amount every single month. What do most people do? Thanks, Cindy. This is a fantastic question. And let me explain why. Because your decumulation strategy, so that means when you get into retirement, you are then decumulating. You're starting your distributions. You're spending your retirement savings. While you were working, you were accumulating. You were saving. Maybe that was in a 401k every single paycheck. But then when you get into the decumulation phase, which is retirement, now you're spending those funds and having the stock account, which is, it sounds like their non-retirement, like brokerage account. And then they've got Roth dollars. And then they've got pre-tax in that pre-tax 401k. To answer Cindy's question simply, there's not a formula that says spend this account first, then this account, and then you'll be best off. They used to call that the conventional wisdom method. And so what that method says is you spend your non-retirement account first. So in this case, Cindy's stock account would get spent first. Then your 401k, all the pre-tax dollars would then get spent. And then when that's totally depleted, you end with distributions from your Roth accounts. And conventional wisdom is kind of the old school strategy. But what we found through studies and research is conventional wisdom, it doesn't work for all people across the board. There's a PhD of finance from University of Baylor, Dr. Reichenstein, that actually has done a tremendous amount of research on this very topic, and that conventional wisdom no longer holds up. It just doesn't. Not only have the tax laws changed, but the required minimum distribution age has now changed. Longevity has changed. And to throw a curveball, we don't know what taxes are going to be in the future. And it also doesn't take into account other sources of income that Cindy and maybe her spouse might have, like pension income and Social Security income and employment income. And how you claim your Social Security benefits dictates the withdrawal strategy, the decumulation strategy, and how you choose to start your Social Security benefits. That really goes hand in hand with what buckets, what accounts you start spending first, and whether you do Roth conversions. So there's a lot more that goes into it, Cindy. And in fact, I did a YouTube video on this very same topic, and there's thousands and thousands of downloads. It's probably the most popular video that we've done on the Retirement Made Easy YouTube channel, and it's called the Retirement Withdrawal Strategy. And how do most people do it, Cindy? Just to answer that question, most people do it wrong. If I'm just flat out, I hear things like, oh, well, I decided to take from the 401k first because it's my biggest account. Or I decided to spend my stock account first because I didn't really like those stocks to begin with. And so that's another factor that goes into this decumulation decision is what investments go in each account. That determines the withdrawal strategy. So you might have some investments in a particular account that might produce income, like through dividends and interest. And maybe that's an account that you'll want to spend those dividends and interest every single month. And maybe you have other accounts that maybe they're not producing a whole lot of income. Maybe they're more aggressive and they're focused on long-term growth. And therefore, that's an account that you don't plan on touching for the first 5 years of retirement. Throwing another factor in is what investments you have in each account. Are they helping you reach your income goal when it comes to that decumulation? Because the investments that you put in the particular accounts, are they helping you accomplish the goal of retirement income or not? And big picture, you want to come up with a withdrawal strategy, a decumulation strategy that gives you the highest probability of a successful retirement, meaning there's funds left over, but that also reduces your lifetime tax bill. So by taking from different buckets or different types of accounts, there's going to be a tax bill year in and year out. How do we minimize that lifetime tax bill? That will be determined by which accounts you withdraw from and what frequency you withdraw from them. For example, we see some people that the first 5 years of retirement, they pay zero income taxes and they do zero Roth conversions. And then all of a sudden in year 6 of retirement, bam, their tax rate goes way, way up. And then for the rest of their retirement, they're paying more taxes than they need to. So, Cindy, I know that was long-winded. Thanks for bearing with me, but I hope you have a chance to watch that Retirement Made Easy YouTube video on the withdrawal strategy in retirement, which account to withdraw from first, and what a massive difference one strategy can have from another. I hope this episode has been helpful. I'll see you next time, and remember, always dream big.
Content in this material is for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. The content in this material does not necessarily reflect the views of LPL Financial. This is a hypothetical example and is not representative of any specific situation. Your results will vary. The hypothetical rates of return used do not reflect the deduction of fees and charges inherent to investing. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments might be appropriate for you, please consult your attorney, tax advisor, or financial planner prior to investing. This is a hypothetical example and is not representative of any specific investment. Your results may vary. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices mentioned are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance your overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect completely against market risk. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of conversion, withdrawal limitations from a Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to take a required minimum distribution, RMD, in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. This information is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized tax advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific tax issues with a qualified tax advisor. Fixed and variable annuities are suitable for long-term investing, such as retirement investing. Gains from tax-deferred investments are taxed as ordinary income upon withdrawal. Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals made prior to age 59.5 are subject to a 10% IRS penalty tax, and surrender charges may apply. Variable annuities are subject to market risk and may lose value. Riders are additional guarantee options that are available to an annuity or life insurance contract holder. While some riders are part of an existing contract, many others may carry additional fees, charges, and restrictions, and the policyholder should review their contract before purchasing. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of conversion, withdrawal limitations from a Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to take a required minimum distribution, RMD, in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. This information is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized tax advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific tax issues with a qualified tax advisor. Retire Strong Financial Advisors and LPL Financial are not endorsed by or affiliated with the United States Social Security Administration or any government agency. Retire Strong Financial Advisors and LPL Financial are not endorsed by or affiliated with the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services or any government agency.
Thank you for listening to the show today. Check us out at our website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. And if you want some help from Greg, submit your questions at the bottom of the page or sign up for a 30-minute retirement coaching session with Greg. We'll see you next week.